Hello all, this is your Bhavani sir. We are going to discuss day 18 of Mission YODHAN My Prelims Test Series 2023. In this module, we have world physical geography. In the slot 1, we have physical geography of the world and latitude and longitude concept. And slot 2, you have geomorphology and interior structure of the earth, rocks and landform development. And with respect to slot 3, you have internal forces, volcanoes, earthquakes, and slot 4, you have external forces, weathering and erosion process. Coming to first question, consider the following statements. Fossils are abundantly found in igneous rocks. This is a wrong statement because most of the fossils are found in sedimentary rocks. Due to their characteristic features, you find different types of metals and minerals formation out of these rock systems. The basic characteristic feature of this sedimentary rock is lithification. Means the formation of sediments over layers, and between these layers also you have various sediments which go under intense heat and pressure. And if there are certain fossils which are underneath these layers and going under intense heat and pressure for many centuries, it will transform and cause to form these fossil fuels, right? This is called lithification process. The process is lithification. Even after this lithification, the sedimentary rocks have the characteristic to retain the fossils underneath these layers, right? We see a number of such layers, and you find a lot of thickness in these sedimentary rocks which can form the various non-metallic objects such as sandstone and shale. And these are various previous year questions associated with it. The question is about fossils are abundantly found in sedimentary rocks. Just now we have discussed. And with respect to sedimentary rocks and earth surface hydrological activity, in sedimentary rocks are formed out of hydrological activity and eolian activities. Landforms are also formed out, and mechanical activities, gravity, and also chemical reactions and biological activities. These also contribute to form various rock systems, especially the sedimentary rock system, which you are going to discuss within no less than a minute, because we have framed many questions in it. And coming to this sedimentary rock and metamorphic rock, which are the rocks emerged out of it, right? In this rock system, what are the minerals and the rocks that you find? Especially in igneous rocks, you don't find granite rock because this is a metamorphic rock, and it is formed out of this metamorphosis. And these igneous rocks and also sedimentary rocks will transform into metamorphic rocks out of under intense heat and pressure and certain chemical reactions which go under this, right? Suppose, for example, the limestone which will transform into marble, and similarly the clay which is a sedimentary rock will transform into slate. So gneiss, all granite, all are part of these metamorphic rocks out of this metamorphosis which are formed out of igneous and sedimentary rocks. And depending upon the mode of formation only, the sedimentary rocks are classified into 3 categories. Just now I had told you that many questions were set and you have to do reverse engineering. That means you have to learn everything after reading an MCQ in 360 degrees. This is reverse engineering. Here you have to know entire rock system, because the sedimentary rocks are formed like out of this mechanical activity and organical formation, that is biological activity, and chemically formed sedimentary rocks. These are examples of chemically formed sedimentary rocks, that is limestone, halite and potash. These are examples of chemically formed sedimentary rocks. And igneous rocks are basically classified based on their texture. Texture means the grains which are actually arranged in a particular structure or order. Based on the structure of the grains that are causing to form these igneous rocks, we find the texture of the igneous rock. Texture actually depends on simply the size and also the arrangement of the grains. So next thing, if molten material is cooled very slowly under great depths, you find mineral grains which are very, very large in nature. Based on the depth of the rocks, underneath the surface of the earth, you find different types of rock system, whether larger rocks or also the smaller rocks. If you sudden cooling at the surface results in small and smooth grains, this is called a sudden cooling. This is based on the depth and also the formation out of the time period, right? Time, depth, altitude, these are basic things, and also depth, time, depth and period of formation, and whether chemical or mechanical activity. Based on these things, you find different rock systems which form and also develop certain characteristics. You have to do reverse engineering in 360 degrees after solving this question once again. And 90 degrees latitude is not at all longest one, because the earth is in geoid shape. Okay, I have given you in the globe spheroid shape here. Okay, let's come to this 0 degrees equator, which is a longest, that is longest latitude here. So 90 degrees, when you go to 90 degrees, you have very shortest latitudes. So this is the first statement is completely incorrect, and the difference between the longest day and the shortest day decreases with not with the longitude, actually it decreases with the latitude, okay. But this decrease is possible only due to the axial tilt of the earth. What does it mean? The earth is tilted towards the sun or away from the sun. Here the sun, earth is this is a hypothetical line which is drawn. This is called the axis of the earth. This axis of the earth is tilted towards the sun. That is, the tilt is around 66.5 degrees here, 66.5 degrees with its orbital plane, and with its actual axis it is making 23.5 degrees angle. Okay, right. This axial tilt, due to this axial tilt of the earth, you witness the frequent changes of days and nights based on the seasons. In the summer and winter solstice times, in the summer times you find 14 hours of longest day. In the winter times you find only 10 hours of daylight in the northern hemisphere. Similarly in the southern hemisphere, based on the summer and winter solstice. And see, this is a basic concept that you have to learn. And coming to fourth question, Cambrian period is marked by absence of terrestrial life on the planet Earth. This is fine, okay, but unicellular bacteria is found to be pre-Cambrian time, or most of the scientists scientists are telling that before Devonian period, you might have found unicellular bacteria, that is blue-green algae, or its okay, or other components. Okay, so there is possibility of making this fourth statement incorrect. So first statement is correct only because absence of terrestrial life you find on the planet of the Earth in the Cambrian period, and first reptiles you find in Carboniferous period. That is true, and dinosaurs came into extinct after Jurassic period, not from Triassic period, right? Not in Triassic period. So after this Jurassic period, here the table is given. After the Jurassic period, after 144 to 208 million years ago, you found the age of dinosaurs. The dinosaurs age was extinct after this Jurassic era, and it was positive. It might have happened in the Cretaceous era, it seems. Okay, this was a finding from the scientist side, and you find the first reptiles which were found in the Carboniferous era. Okay, and in the Cambrian era you find no terrestrial life, but you may find marine invertebrates in the Cambrian times. Okay, you must learn all these eras and Joics and also periods. Next, coming to movement of the earth around the sun in a fixed path or orbit is called revolution. That is true. The revolution around the revolution which is happening around the sun is called is causing many changes in the earth climate system, because you have to know the impact of 360 degrees of rotation concept, that is from rotation, and also this concept of revolution, rotation, and third aspect is axial tilt of the earth. If there is no axial tilt of the earth, what will be the consequence? Axial tilt of the earth. These things you must learn. Here the axis of the earth, which is an imaginary line, makes an angle of 66.5 degrees with its orbital plane. If this is the orbital plane, this is the orbital plane of the earth. This is the orbital plane of the earth. This is the orbital plane of the earth. Okay. What will happen? Here this is an axis of the earth, an imaginary line. This is orbital plane. This is an imaginary, this is axis of the earth. This is an imaginary line which is drawn straight. this is making 23.5 degrees, and here it is around 66.5 degrees with its orbital plane. So, this is a basic concept which you have to learn, 23.5 and also 66.5 from vertical line from the Earth's orbital plane. Vertical line from Earth's orbital plane. This is orbital plane. This is orbital plane. And in this, if you draw a vertical line exactly in the midst of the orbital plane, you find a two-dimensional picture here. In this two-dimensional picture, it is x-axis, it is y-axis. In this, you find 23.5 degrees of our axis which is tilted from the vertical line which is drawn, vertical line. This is the vertical line which is drawn from the orbital plane. So, this 23.5 degrees is the cause of concern for many climate changes in our country, and formation of summer solstice and winter solstice, and this coming is monsoons, and also this causing changes in the ocean current systems and densities and evaporation, rainfall pattern and vegetation, distribution of vegetation in all aspects. Apart from revolution and rotation, this is also one of the biggest cause that is creating this kind of all the phenomena on the surface of the Earth, geographical phenomena on the surface of the Earth. As you know that Earth has two types of motion, that is, one is rotation around its own axis and the revolution around the sun in a fixed path, right. This is the orbital plane that you have known, exactly drawn in the drawn horizontally in the midst of the Earth, that is a spheroid shape. In the midst of the Earth, you are drawing an imaginary line, that is the orbital plane. Orbital plane formed by the this plane formed by the orbit is known as orbital plane, right. And coming to B, option B, yes, just now we have discussed that rotation is the cause of, rotation, every concept is very interesting here. Axis of the Earth, which is an imaginary line, we have actually removed it, and Earth's rotation actually causes the bulge slightly at the equator and flatten at the poles, not the revolution. Because just what is the reason here? Rotation actually causes a centrifugal force that acts perpendicular, to the axis of the rotation, and this force is strongest at the equator and weakest at the poles. What does it mean? Centrifugal, you know two forces are acting mutually opposite to each other. One is centripetal force. The rotating body, the mass around it may be targeted towards its center, and the rotating body may go away from its center. And these forces are equal. This is called the force which is going against this center point is called centrifugal force. The force which is causing an object to fall within the center of this moving body, is called centripetal force or centrifugal force, right. So, this centrifugal force that acts perpendicular to the axis of the rotation, this is the Earth, and this is the axis of the Earth, 23.5 degrees, which is inclined actually, and this exactly perpendicular to this axis of the Earth, there is a force which is acting out of this center point, that is called centrifugal force. Just now I have told you. This axis of the force which is strongest at the equator and weaker at the poles. This force is very, very stronger at the equator because the distance from the axis of the rotation is greater at the equator. One more formula that you have to remember. These are physical phenomena. That means the basic physics is involved. Here, gravity is constant, 9.8 meters per second, and also you have two objects which have masses of m1 and m2 and by radius, right. This is called the force. This force is the gravitational force. The gravitational force is dependent on these elements. For example, this is the radius of the Earth. The radius of the Earth here, a light geoid shape. Here you have more distance, the radius is high, you have very, very less distance, here the radius is less, you have less radius, you have more radius here. So here the gravitational force is inversely proportional to radius. Means simply, if the radius is high, the gravity is low. If the radius is low, the gravity will be higher. When it comes to, yes, exactly what is written here. When it comes to northern poles, you have the force that causes the earth to bulge slightly at the equator, that means unflatten at the poles, resulting in oblate spheroid shape. This means, in a very layman terms, I am telling you, at the poles, the place on the surface place which is nearer to the center part of the earth, that is actually attracting towards the center of the earth, and this attraction towards the center of the earth is causing more gravity on the body which is standing at the poles, and the body which is standing at the equator is being experienced is at the experience of lower gravity because of the more radius that you have. Okay, the gravitational force is inversely proportional to radius, and if the radius is lower at the poles and the object is very nearer to the center of the earth, therefore it will experience more gravity. The gravity will be higher at the poles and lower at the equator. This is very simple, and this formula is based on the masses of the two objects which are directly proportional to the force, and the mass is higher, the gravitational force will be higher. If the radius is higher, the gravitational force will be lesser because of its inverse relationship. Just now I had told you that gravity, which is constant here, 9.8 meters per second, and mass 1, mass 2, the objects which are here and which is attracting and which is being attracted. Okay. This is a basic formula. I think you might have understood, otherwise you have to do one more time the reverse engineering process of these core concepts of basic physical geography, because they were asked in basic physics also in various exams, especially in the central armed police force. Next, coming to 6th question regarding international dateline. This international dateline is not a straight line because it should be zigzag. It should not go on a particular landscape. Otherwise, it is very difficult to determine a particular date for that landscape, because the one side of the landscape may have a different date compared to other side. So it should be completely zigzag and to avoid the landscape. So there should not be any kind of straight line drawn to determine international dateline. And second thing, international dateline is based on only 180 degrees longitude, not the latitude. So second statement is wrong. And third statement, ship sailing westward from Greenwich, this is a 0 degrees Greenwich, which is a ship sailing westward from Greenwich when crossing international dateline would put back the date by a day. Coming to this explanation part, ships move westward across the dateline, it is going back in time by 24 hours. Because the other side of the dateline is 1 day ahead of the ship's current side. So you have to know the basic concepts of this 0 degrees Greenwich and also the 180 degrees longitude. Here the 180 degrees longitude is 24 hours ahead of Greenwich when it is going back, when you are going back from the Greenwich. Okay, when you are crossing the Greenwich, here you are nearer to this 180 degrees longitude, and you are continuing the same day which is available on the 0 degrees. If you cross this 180 degrees, your date will change. Simple. So between 0 degrees and 180 degrees, you have 12 hours of variation. So from this 180 degrees to this 180 degrees, again if you come across these 180 degrees, if you encircle 180 degrees in 360 degrees, you have 24 hours variation. Therefore, this 180 degrees on the other side should be definitely saving 1 day. If it is crossing this side, if it is crossing this side, it should be saving one side, it should be saving a day. So for example, if this 180 degrees longitude is having Monday this side, definitely it should be Tuesday this side. Simple. Because here there is a gap of 24 hours. Okay, here the 0 degrees Greenwich, which is in between the Monday and Tuesday. If you take a particular time, it is very easy to determine. You no need to take date here, just it is an hypothetical thing. If a person is crossing this 180 degrees and entering into this place, he will gain a day. If a person is crossing from this west side to eastwards, he will lose a day. That is a simple concept, right? This was asked here, and various other previous year questions regarding this international dateline in 2013 also. Series 2013 is, this is largely based on 180 degrees meridian, that is true only, and the difference between the places just either side of the international dateline is almost 1 day, what are the statements that are not correct? I think this is about not correct. Yes, so first is right, A is right, B is right, and the difference in time to the extent of 1 day on either side of the international dateline is caused by inclined axis of the earth. No, that is the international dateline mostly pass through Pacific Ocean, that is true only. So C is incorrect here. So these are the question asked on the international dateline, and similar question was asked in India in 2009 and in UPSC CSC in 1997 also. You please go through these questions once again to do this reverse engineering process, and consider the following statements regarding when the shadow of the earth falls on the moon, it causes solar eclipse. That is wrong. When the shadow of the moon falls on the earth, it causes lunar eclipse. This is also wrong. This is given ulta, completely reverse. So this is sun. You have sun here. You have earth. You have moon. So if the moon is in the shadow zone of the earth, this is called lunar eclipse. Similarly, if the moon is coming in between the earth and sun, earth and the moon, and if the earth is in the shadow zone of the moon, this is called solar eclipse, right? These are the concepts. They have asked NDA in 2010 regarding these questions. Lunar eclipse takes place when the earth comes directly between the sun and the moon, and solar eclipse happens when the moon comes directly between the sun and the earth, and lunar eclipse takes place. These are the questions that you have to eliminate and simply answer these questions. The option B is actually wrong here. Here the option C and C 1 and 2 is the right answer here, because first option statement and second statement is true. Lunar eclipse takes place when sun comes directly between the earth and moon. Sun, it is not at all right. So solar eclipse, it is also wrong. So third and fourth statements are contradictory to first and second statement respectively. So these are previous year questions of UPSC. And coming to eighth question, all natural earthquakes takes place in the lithosphere. Yes, what is lithosphere? Exactly 200 kilometers beneath the surface of the earth, you have the lithosphere part. Okay, this is suppose earth's interior, the upper layer is crust, and exactly 200 kilometers beneath this crustal part is called, and including the crustal part is called lithosphere, right? Lithosphere. So all natural earthquakes occur in the lithosphere part because it is in a state of plastic, and due to under intense heat, and this magmatic chamber is emerged, and this magmatic chamber will always cause the upper parts, that is the plates, to move towards each other and away from each other, which will cause tremors in that place, okay, in the boundaries of those upper plates. So the first statement is definitely true. And naturally, body waves generated during the event of the earthquake are released due to the release of the energy at the focus and move in all directions traveling through the body of the earth. That is true only, because within this earthquake, these earthquakes are basically of two types: body waves and surface waves. Body waves are generated due to the release of the energy at the focus and move in all directions traveling through the body of the earth. Okay, this is usual phenomenon in the earthquakes. And which one of the following is present in the largest amount in terms of weight of this earth's crust? They may ask in chronological order or arrange them in ascending or descending order in the future also. So you have to know the composition of the earth's interior, especially with respect to the mineral composition. Here the oxygen is having highest weightage in the earth's crustal part. Major elements in the Earth's crustal part, you witness oxygen is contributing major, and 46% is around oxygen, and silicon is having 27.72% and aluminum 8%, iron and calcium are having 5% and 3%, okay, respectively. You have to remember the Cl part and Sigma part also. Next thing, consider for instance, terrestrial planets were formed in the close vicinity of the parent star. Terrestrial, yes, terrestrial planets were definitely very close to the parent stars, and they became very terrestrial because their close vicinity to the this parent star, and they are unable to hold the gaseous material due to the intense solar heat waves, which are solar flares emerged out of this sun's outer atmosphere. So the terrestrial planets were formed in the closer vicinity only, in the parent star. The first statement is correct. And solar wind was most intense away from the sun. No, it is very intense near to the sun, not away from the sun. So second statement is wrong. And compared to Jovian planets, the terrestrial planets are smaller and their lower gravity could not hold the escaping gases. Yes, this is true, because compared to Jovian, the terrestrial planets are smaller, their lower gravity could not hold the escaping gases. This is true, and first and third statement is absolutely true. So the option B is the true answer here. And coming to terrestrial planets which were formed in the close vicinity of the parent stars, they are very warm. So the gases are very, it is very difficult to condense gases which are nearer to the vicinity of the parent star. Okay, the gases which are nearer to the vicinity of the parent star around this terrestrial planets cannot be condensed easily. And the Jovian planets were formed at a quite distant location. Therefore, the gases can be held by these Jovian planets. And solar winds which are very intense nearer the sun, so it will blow off the entire gas and dust particles around these terrestrial planets. Therefore, they may not be in gaseous state, and around the atmosphere they will be in always terrestrial state, and means rock like material which is higher than that of the Jovian planets in these terrestrial planets. Okay, next and the third statement is terrestrial planets are smaller and their lower gravity is very difficult for them to retain the escaping gases, but the Jovian planets having the highest gravity, and it is very easy for them to hold the gaseous material, and the solar flares are less intense to take away all these gaseous material with respect to Jovian planets. This third statement is also correct, right? Next, which one among the following is called terrestrial planet? Yes, definitely Mercury. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, these are part of the terrestrial planets until asteroid belt, which is located in between the Mars and Jupiter. Until asteroid belt, you have these terrestrial planets. And one of 8 planets, that is Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, which are called inner planets that lie between the sun and the belt of the asteroid, right? Just now I had told you. So alternately, the first 4 are called terrestrial, right? Meaning earth-like material they are made up of. Next, earthquakes. Regarding earthquakes, the lines joining the places which were affected by earthquake at the same point of time are called homoseismal lines. This is true. Homoseismal, there is a thin line of difference between isoseismal and homoseismal lines in determining the different types of earthquakes. I mean lines of earthquakes. Okay, if there is only there is a line which is binding the points of equal intensity of earthquakes, this is called isoseismal. Equal intensity of earthquakes are dotted with a line. If they are connected with a line, the dots of equal intensity of earthquakes are connected in a line in the map. The line is called isoseismal line. Isoseismal line. If the lines joining the places which were affected by earthquake at the same point of time are called homoseismal lines. Homoseismal lines. That means the places at the same time in which the earthquake occurs, if they are connected, that is called homoseismal line. Okay, the time of occurrence of earthquakes, their connectedness is called homoseismal, and the intensity of earthquakes which are having a kind of equilibrium or uniformity, if they are connected, that is called isoseismal line. Simple. So measuring earthquakes is basically of 2 types. That is one is magnitude. Magnitude is the amount of energy generated at the time of the earthquake occurs. This is magnitude. How much energy is produced when the earthquake occurs at its focus. This is the magnitude, and the intensity of damage it created is called Mercalli, is estimated by Mercalli scale. So Richter scale is to assess the magnitude of the earthquake, that is the energy generated at the time of occurrence of the earthquake, and Mercalli scale is focusing on intensity of the earthquake which caused the damage. The amount of damage occurred is measured by the Mercalli scale, and the energy produced at the time of earthquake occurrence is measured by the magnitude. Simple. So the magnitude scale, the Richter scale, contains 1 to 10 points, and the intensity scale, Mercalli scale, contains 1 to 12 points. Tsunamis are not caused by usually not hurricanes. They are not caused by hurricanes. They are caused by earthquakes, undersea landslides, and volcanic eruptions. This is true. Hurricanes are generally tropical cyclones which occur at low pressure systems. If there is low pressure system here, therefore there is a chance of formation of the cyclonic thunderstorms, right? Thunderstorms. This is an organized effort, and out of this Coriolis force they will deflect towards rightwards, they deflect towards right in the northern hemisphere and left in the southern hemisphere respectively. So this kind of cyclical formation in the low pressure belt regions of the tropical area on the earth's surface is called hurricanes. In several regions it is called with several names: typhoons, hurricanes, willy likewise. Nice. So tropical cyclones, this is part of these tropical cyclones are not at all concerned or associated with the formation of tsunamis, but undersea landslides and volcanic eruptions and earthquakes are the causes which lead to the tsunamis. This is a CDS question in 2010. And earthquake waves are ultrasonic? No, it is very these are sound waves only, but infrasonic waves. Okay, infrasonic waves are around audible sound, but it is not easy for a human being to listen to these or hear of these infrasonic sounds, because their frequency is less than 20 Hz. Their frequency is less than 20 Hz, right? This is they are infrasonic waves. That is why they are called sound waves only. But ultrasonic waves, their frequency is more than 20,000 Hz. More than 20,000 Hz. So this is very difficult for a human being to hear. This kind of sound may be emerged out of this rocket system, or also rockets and jet streams. So less than 20 Hz is very less than the hearing capacity of the human being, but whales and elephants can hear this 20 Hz sound. Okay. So these are infrasonic waves, not ultrasonic waves. The first statement is incorrect. And intensity of earthquake decreases with distance from the epicenter. Yes, definitely, because the mass should be carried throughout the journey of this earthquake wave, right? So the mass, it is very difficult to carry the mass objects with the same intensity due to their absorption, reflection and scattering. It is very difficult, right? So various factors will cause to lay down these earthquake matter or material at low pace, and when it reaches at its epicenter. What does it mean, epicenter? If this is an earthquake formation zone, this is focus or hypocenter. This is hypocenter, right? Exactly on the surface of the earth, this part is called epicenter, right? So until the earthquake wave reaches this epicenter part, there is lot of absorption of the material, that is waves may absorb, or waves may be absorbed by the moving material, and reflection and scattering may also take place, which will lead to decrease the intensity of this seismic wave until they reach the epicenter. Okay, which of the following are direct sources of information about the interior of the earth? Here there are two sources. One is indirect source and the other one is indirect source. Only one is that you found in the volcano, that is which is a direct source of information regarding interior, because when the lava emerged out of this volcanic material, you will find volcanic matter where when lava is coming out from this volcano, you out of this volcanic activity, you will find various perfluoro and also fly ash and other material which is emerged out of it, and also certain sprinklers, right, and dust material, dust particles. Therefore, you can directly witness the amount of material or matter or mineral which is located underneath the surface of the earth. It is very direct source in nature. But what are the indirect sources here? Indirect sources include gravitation, magnetic field and seismic activity. Gravitation force is not the same at different latitudes on the surface, you know that one, because it is greater near the poles. Just now I had told you, if the gravitation, this is m1 and this is m2 and this is radius and this is a gravitational force, right? This gravity is constant across the universe, 9.8 meters per second, that is fine. But these are the masses of the objects and this is the radius. So the gravitational force is inversely proportional to the radius, right? Inversely proportional. If the radius is less at the poles and radius is highest at the equator, so the gravitational force is definitely inverse in nature. So equator being greater at the poles, and because of the distance from the center is higher. Distance from the center is higher at the equator part. This is the geoid shape of the earth. This is the distance from the center of the earth. The distance from the center of the earth, this is radius, right? This distance is less. Suppose this distance is x, this distance is y. If the x is having less distance than y, therefore at x the gravity is higher. At y the gravity is lower. So at equator you witness the less gravity compared to the poles. So this is called gravity values also differ according to the mass of the material. That is fine. This is called the equation G m1 m2. If the mass is higher, gravity will be higher. If the radius is higher, gravity will be lower, right? This is called a mutual inverse and proportionate relationship. Next, consider the following statements with regard to primary waves of the earthquakes. They are similar to light waves. No, they are sound waves. Just now we have told you that they are infrasonic waves which are having less than 20 Hz, that can be listened by only the elephants and whales, certain animals, not by human beings. They can travel only liquid. No, the primary waves can travel from gaseous material, so through gaseous material. So second statement is also wrong. Neither one nor two is the right answer here. P waves are similar to sound waves, just now we have told, and this is they can travel through gaseous, solid and liquid material. These are the questions associated with many previous year questions. As CDS in 2012, they have asked regarding the internal structure of the earth. Here the secondary waves which help scientists to understand internal structure of the earth. Not only secondary waves but also the primary waves, right? Sometimes the question options may be given wrong, don't worry. So which one of the following statements about primary waves of the earthquakes is not correct? They are similar to sound waves, that is true. They can only travel through solid material, that is fine. They that is earth waves, that is primary waves, right? They can travel through solid, liquid and gaseous material. So second statement is wrong here. Wrong means you have to choose which is asking incorrect. So other three statements are correct. They can travel through gaseous, liquid material and move faster and first to arrive at the surface, that is also fine. Next, coming to 17th question, the outer core is not in solid state. This is wrong statement. Inner core is in solid state, outer core, this is given ulta. So first statement is incorrect. And the core is mostly constituted by nickel and iron, that is fine. So the core which as indicated earlier, the earthquake wave velocities helped in understanding the existence of the core of the earth. The core mantle boundary is located at depth of 2900 kilometers and they are varying densities, and outer core is in liquid state while the inner core is in solid state, because there is a kind of convectional current formation because under intense heat and pressure, and also the pressure which is emanating and the heat which is emanating from the and from its underneath the surface. Suppose this is the earth, this is the core part, this is inner core part, right? This is inner core, this is outer core. Suppose inner core is having highest level of heat, intense heat, okay, intense heat at the inner core. This intense heat in the inner core is creating the convectional current and making this outer core to melt. This is causing the outer core to be in semi-solid state, a little bit liquid state, and the inner core is in the solid state. And also the outer core is acting as a buffer between this mantle, this is mantle part, and also the inner core. This, because the outer core is acting as a buffer between the mantle and inner core, this is outer core buffer. Therefore, there is less pressure on the inner core, which will make this inner core to be in the solid state rather than being melted out of the pressure, right? So, in the inner core you have less pressure but more intense heat, which is causing the outer core to be melted, and outer core is experiencing highest level of intense pressure due to the objects which are underlying in the mantle part. Simple. Okay, the objects which are in the mantle part are creating more pressure in the core part, and this pressure is taken by this outer core part, and the inner core is having highest intense heat, which is causing this convectional current, and this outer core is being in semi-solid state and the inner core is in the completely solid state, right? This is the core, the making up of the core system in the interior structure of the earth. Consider these are basic concepts which I want to discuss with you, because it is a conceptual understanding. Otherwise, sometimes the questions may be twisted. You have to know why this inner core, rather than mugging up where inner core, the outer core is in semi-solid or liquid state. This is not a mugging up concept. You should know the convectional current. You should know the concepts of heat and pressure, how they will make certain radioactivity. Okay, these basic things you have to know. Otherwise, you will be facing difficulty in answering the questions, right? You should have conceptual understanding. Next, coming to the Earth's crust. It is the thinnest of all layers of the Earth's crust. That is fine. Next, oceanic crust is thinner. No, oceanic crust is thick. Oceanic crust is thinner. Yeah, okay. Oceanic crust is having thin. Yes, oceanic crust is thin. That means the thickness with the oceanic crust is around 15, whereas that of the continental crust is this is right only, right? The oceanic crust, because I wanted to give in reverse manner, but I have given the right statement only. Oceanic crust is thinner, because this is based on previous year question, we wanted to give based. Okay, it is the thinner of the layers of the Earth's surface. Oceanic crust is thinner than the continental crust, and the continental mass mainly consists of silicon. No, it is wrong. It mainly consists of silica and aluminium, and main mineral constituents of oceanic crust are silica and magnesium. So, third statement, fourth statement is incorrect. First and second are correct here. Okay. So, the crust, thinnest of all the layers is the oceanic, the general crust, and also it is about 35 kilometers on the ocean continental masses, only 5 kilometers on the ocean floors. The main mineral constituents of the continental mass are silica and aluminium, and the oceanic crust mainly consists of silica and magnesium. It is therefore called SIMA. Coming to 19th question, Ural Mountains separate Asia from Europe. That is true, and Caucasus Mountains separate Black Sea and Caspian Sea. This was a previous year question in CDS in 2019. Caucasus Mountains separate Black Sea and Caspian Sea, and Alps separate France from Italy. This is also true, and Rockies don't separate USA from Canada. This is wrong statement. Only 3 statements are true. This is correct, right? You please go through the map once again. And Mount Mayon is not located in Brazil, it is located in Philippines. So, second statement is incorrect, and Mount Etna at Italy is true, and Mount Kilimanjaro, Tanzania is true, Mount Fujiyama, Japan is also true. Only 3 statements are correct here. And these were asked in UPSC CSC in 2011 and CAPF 2012. These mountains have to be remembered, the block mountains and also the fold mountains, old mountains and also new fold mountains. You have to remember all these things, right? I think this session would have helped you. All the best. If there is any doubt, you can text me in the comment section. I will give you reply.